beginning before you go in? Because you
Yes,
know that's going to be on for 81.
I know.
All right. Well, good evening and welcome to the December 4th regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. Madam Clerk, can we call a roll, please?
Mayor Rilling, Mr. Abrams,
Here.
Mr. Constant,
Here.
Mr. Jelleret,
Here.
Mr. Kasimis,
Here.
Ms. Yang.
Here.
5, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All right. Our first order of business tonight is approval of the November 6th meeting minutes. Can I get someone to please move that for discussion and approval?
I'll go ahead and move it.
Thank you, Artie. That said, any changes, updates, revisions to the minutes as they were published in our packet? I have one very small correction. Second sentence of the transfer agenda section, item section B, the sentence should read if all, not if al. It's a minor typo.
Sorry,
Any
I
other-
lost you. Where are you?
The second sentence on page 2 of the packet, Tom,
Yep.
under transfer agenda, Mr. Ellis
I see it,
explained.
Got it.
All.
All, yeah.
Okay. Any other changes, comments, amendments to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes with the one correction, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved. All right, moving to our next item, which begins on page 11 of our agenda, the section B transfers for tonight. Tom, you want to, before we turn it to you, can I move the transfer agenda for discussion and approval, please?
I'll move it.
Troy.
Thank you. All right, Tom, you want to lead us through the conversation?
Yeah, so this first one is a request from contingency for $7,000 for IT software within the city clerk's area. This is for software that will help us track, report, monitor any and all requests for freedom of information. So when they first come in, who they're delegated to, tracking it through the process. If you guys have seen what's going on at Bridgeport, they are backlogged to the tune of hundreds of Freedom of Information Act requests. And if it gets bad enough and delayed enough and tardy enough, there are fines associated with that as well, let alone the reputational risk of appearing not to be responsive to your stakeholders. So if you bear with me just 1 minute, Tom Livingston is trying to get in. I have to send him an invite. But that is basically what the $7,000 is for the cost of the software to track that. It'll give it provide a dashboard as well to give everybody visibility as to what's out there and where it is in the process.
Okay. Do
Question
we
is-
need to wait for Tom for questions? Or?
He's your call.
Well, let's see if you can answer them, and if you can't, well, when Tom joins, he can. Artie, I believe you had a question or a comment.
Yeah, do we know of any municipalities that use this specific software and their experience with it?
I do not, but I did just
Several municipalities use it, and we've done research. Stamford uses something similar, and Fairfield uses something similar. And the reason this is cost effective is because we're already using the platform as our the domain platform. So that's why it's only going to cost us $7,000 to automate the FOI requests. It's been very challenging without any tracking device.
Okay. Additional questions on this item? Okay, Tom, maybe move to the planning and zoning items?
Yeah, here are two more requests for contingency, for the planning and zoning area, and we have, as though Jim and Steve are not gonna get enough from Henry and I tomorrow, they're here tonight as well. But we have Steve Kleppen here to take, to walk you through this one and take any questions.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. So we have two requests for funds. One is related to our messenger delivery service, which we use for citation notices. We've been using that just frequently because it's just a more effective way of ensuring that whether it's a notice of violation or any complaint messaging that we want to get out gets there and the delivery is actually made, because otherwise we really can't verify it. And our citation hearing officer takes the constable service as received documentation, so that expedites the process. And we've also had a significant increase in the number of complaints we've been dealing with over the last 4 months. I'm not sure what the rationale is, but just the volume that's coming has increased. So we're working on some other things to address that. But the constable itself, it's a paid service that where we ensure we get the delivery of the notice, which is required. Second item is just some additional funds we're requesting as part of the zoning rewrite. We're pretty close to wrapping it up, I think. The public hearings are scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday night of this week. We have a series of edits that the consultant's going to have to make post public hearings, so we'll have to get that done. Something I think in the future we'll do ourselves in-house, but the software program we're not as familiar with, and it'll just be easier for the consultant team to put those edits in. We may run up with some additional legal fees as well, based on just conversations and work with our outside attorney. So we feel the funds will help us just kind of bridge the gap between now and when things get adopted.
Is the architecture landscaping a misnomer and it should be rewrite?
No, that's where we typically use all our planning funds or anything that usually comes out of that same line item. That's what we've been using pretty much all along.
Okay.
But it's not architecture and landscaping expense, it's rewrite related expense, correct?
Correct. But that's the account where most of the time the funds go into it, just to kind of cover, anytime we do a planning study or anything, that's the account we've been using.
Understood on that. I just wanted to make sure I understood what the real request was.
Right. Thank you.
I would make a strong suggestion that part of the budgeting process, accounting reports start to get misleading when you're putting things into mislabeled accounts. Talk to Chitsame. If you need two different accounts, set it up so that way when the reports get prepared, everyone knows, or at least has a chance of knowing what you're doing. When you use an existing account and dump stuff in, it's not the best way to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, no problem.
Now that we understand what the line item is, that and the messenger and delivery, any questions on the two line items?
Just a quick
Marty?
one. You actually use that line item for something else, for architecture and landscaping?
No, that's all it's been used for, is typically planning studies or related.
Other questions for Steve? Okay, thank you. Shall we move to transportation, mobility, and parking?
Yeah, those transfers cover it for contingency. The rest are interdepartmental or intra-departmental transfers, depending on which one. But the first one is TMP. Jim Travers is here to talk to this one, and it's a request to move funds from DPW over to economic and community development. Go ahead, Jim.
Hi, thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. So this one, I think, speaks a little bit to what Henry was just talking about, just clearing things up and putting things in the right place. So TMP used to reside as part of DPW. We still have our signal engineer who was part of that original one. So there are two accounts that are three accounts, I believe, that we're still residing in DPW, but really, our traffic, accounts. And this is just to move it back over, or just move it over to TMP.
Okay, so this is money, just for clarity again, this is money that's currently sitting in DPW that's moving to TMP, or as
Yes.
Okay.
And Vanessa, I assume, is okay with this. You're moving the budget because you guys are doing the work that used to be done in DPW.
Yeah,
She was the
the-
one, yeah, she was the one that actually brought it to my attention, Henry.
No, I
So,
mean, when something transfers from one department to the other, you'd like both departments to agree, and I'm just checking.
Yeah,
yeah, no, I did check.
Okay.
But
good.
yeah, you'll note that, you know, the 4-digit, object codes, on each of those 3 accounts are the same. It's just going from one organization to another,
Right.
$84,000. And Vanessa was kind enough not to spend any of it before Jim got a hold of it.
okay. Questions for Jim? Jim, I have a separate question I'll take offline, but that is how come I hit every red light in the city of Norwalk, but we'll talk about that separately.
Okay, well, we're trying, then we're succeeding, Ed, because.
Yeah, exactly.
Ed, can I ask Jim
Yeah.
a quick
Sure,
question
Troy.
also? Jim,
Sure.
real quick, the Yankee Doodle Garage, I know that we voted and stuff for a color, you know, for the change on the outside. Where is that right now? Are you guys still in the process?
So we are doing that. We're about to. So what we did was the conditions assessment. We identified some concrete work that needs to be done in advance of the color scheme change. So that's currently scheduled with purchasing to go out to bid. The concrete work will be done and then followed up by the bid for the aesthetic portion. But we wanted to make sure that we got through any concrete issues before.
Yeah, because we went to the Wall Street party, Christmas thing the other night, and I just noticed, I was wondering. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions for Jim? All right, should we move to the library, Tom?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Yeah, the final one is a transfer within the library world from books to grounds and outdoor courts. We have Sherelle Harris here to address this one.
Hello, everyone. So
Good
we're
evening,
not
Cheryl.
asking for additional money. We are just asking to transfer from one account to another. What happened was we had, the original amount we were budgeted for our grounds collection. For our grounds account. And when the whole issue came up with the library parking, some of that money was used to pay Eagles, and that left us in a deficit of negative $7,600. So we are just asking to transfer $15,000 to that account just so we can operate for the rest of the year.
Okay. Questions for Sherelle? All right, seeing none. Any last questions on any of the transfers before we move to approve? All right, seeing none. All in favor of the transfers as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? All the transfers are approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving to page 16, section C of our agenda, the contingency tracker. Thank you for putting this together. Tom, do you want to talk through it?
Yeah, just last year we had a very, very quiet year with contingency asks up until the end of the year. This year there seems to be more activity, including the pretty decent chunk for the police school resource officers. So in anticipation of trying to head off the questions, where are we and how much have we spent? I figured I would create this simple one pager that shows all of the requests, which BET meeting it was discussed and voted on, and how much it was. So that second to last column, the amount, you'll see that's how much each of the requests is, and at the bottom of that, the 769,000 is how much we've spent so far this year. And the column to the right of that is the balance. We started with 1.5 million, and after those transfers so far, we're at 731,000. So after tonight, we will be right at about 700,000 after these requests. So I figured I would include this going forward for the rest of the year, and also it gives us a jump on one of the guaranteed audit questions every year. What did you use contingency for and when?
Thank you.
Real quick question, Troy, Tom and Henry, would you feel comfortable with where we are right now? Another month has passed as far as the contingency being half.
I would say, as Tom said it properly, we spent half in the first half of the year, and in prior years it was never that bad. I think the key was 500,000 for the school resource officers, which we understand why it happened. And I think we're going to correct as we do the budget going forward. Is it okay? Depends on what requests come in near the end of the year. But I think it may have to get a little tighter. But I think for where we are, we're okay.
Henry, is it, I don't even know if it's possible to ask the department heads at a mid-year point to look at where they are on their budget run rate, any forecasted requests for contingency with a specific date for that forecast to be presented to you guys so that we can get a sense for if we do have to prioritize additional requests, where we might want to prioritize and focus?
Ed, I would say I'd rather go a different way. If I suggest a report for requesting contingency, I put ideas in their heads. I'd rather go the other way. Tom and Agnes do a review halfway in, budget versus actual. So they're looking department by department, line item by line item, what's going on. People have a history, the 5 years I've been here, of coming in with budget surpluses. So they identify potential problem areas early and start talking to the departments. Also, I think if we have line items which are over, our first line of defense is to say, where are you under? Maybe transfer from one line to another so it doesn't affect contingency and we come into the right number. So I would let Tom and Agnes run with that, but maybe at the 3/4 point, March 31st, we take a closer look. And I think Tom and Agnes would be better able at that time to talk about where we're going to be with contingency. Tom,
That's fine.
any other thoughts, Tom?
No, that sounds reasonable to me. I mean, obviously the idea behind contingency is to assist with unanticipated costs and or surprises or mishaps. So difficult to predict those, but yeah, I'm comfortable with the trend as is, aside from that one-off. Assuming we don't have another $500,000 event, we should be okay.
No, that's great. And Tom or Henry, you made my request better than I stated it, which really is looking at where each department is, budget versus actual. So if Tom and Agnes can do that,
Yeah.
that'd be great. And then we can checkpoint on it to your point in March.
I'm also thinking out loud, when we go to the rating agencies, they like to know what is done budget versus actual. And we explain to them that we give you good people monthly budget versus actual out of Munis. The budget department goes into more detail, focusing in on the areas that might be problematic. So I think it's a pretty good working relationship. So that's the way we think about it, because especially March through June, where we're looking at what the results will be for the whole year. Do we need drawdowns? What are our expected results? But if we do it at the half-year point and 3/4, chances are you come in on target for the full year.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions regarding the contingency tracker?
And let's just point out that Tom Ellis has created a contingency tracker, $7,000 less than Irene's FOIA tracker, because we are cheap with money.
Thank you very much.
6,900 less, Henry. Cost me $100 to do that.
Yeah, well, it'll be in your next paycheck.
Thank you both very much, and no picking on Irene, please.
Thank
All
you.
right, shall we move to the next item in our other business section? Lisa, and the tax collector's office report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, we are giving you the report. This is through the month of November. We haven't done our November end of month yet, but I did a narrative in November that you were given in your packet that covers through the month of October 2023. So through October 2023, we were at 54.81% of our adjusted levy, which was right about where we needed to be, a little bit ahead of last year. We are now working on our billing for the second installment, which we hope this year will go out around the 13th through the 15th of December. If you remember last year, we had a very late billing. It didn't go out until the end of December, and we're trying to avoid that. The bills are actually at the printer right now. Our supplemental motor vehicle bills this year we ran prior to Thanksgiving. We are on a different software system now as we were in July, but different than what we were in December of 2022. So what we're doing now, as we did in July 23, is the different types of taxes are billed separately. There's not a consolidated statement. So motor vehicle are billed separately. Business personal property is billed separately. Real estate is billed separately. It seems to be going well. The customers seem to like the statements. There is more clarity now in terms of elderly tax relief, disabled tax relief credits that appear on the bill. It's a little easier to read. So we're happy about that. But I don't have as much control over things as I used to. I can't run my own files. I rely on the vendor to do it. That's taking some getting used to for me, but getting there. So we hope the bills will go out the middle of December. We also started working on our tax sale last month. The first set of letters went out just to give people a heads up that the sale is happening in July. We haven't seen much revenue coming in just yet, but we're still very early in the process. So I'll have more to report on that as we go forward. We do every year a wage garnishment for employees who work for the city or the Board of Ed who owe past due taxes. That will probably take effect within the next, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks. We're working with the comptroller's office on that. We do it every year. This is nothing new. And we are looking ahead to the first of the year. The Norwalk Department of Health renews health permits. And if you owe back taxes for more than 1 year, we have the right under statute to deny the reissuance of the health permit. So we work in conjunction with the sanitarians at the health department. We're very grateful for their help, but we identify those taxpayers who owe back taxes, and they are required to contact our office and bring those accounts not up to date, but not a year delinquent either. So they'll pay their back taxes and be allowed to get their health permit again. So that's what we're kind of working on now. We're fully staffed, which is nice going into the holidays. We weren't last year, but we are this year. And I'm perfectly happy to answer any questions that any of you folks have for us.
Once again, this is Troy, real quick. Lisa or Henry, the reval letters and the effect, what it looks like so far.
Well, the reval is the assessor's office, not my division, so I don't have anything to do with that. I'll give it over to Henry.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. My understanding is the reval letters are going out within the next 10 days, again, by the middle of December. It does not talk about taxes due or tax bills. It only talks about assessed values. I was asked a question about whether it would include the prior year's assessment. I think it might, but I'm not sure. I have to confirm with Paul Gorman. But there have been informational sessions from the Chamber of Commerce and another one for especially residents. And that has been very helpful, that people are aware of what's going on and what's to be expected. So I will touch base with Paul Gorman and get back to you regarding whether last year's assessment is on those notices. But again, it should be within a couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Lisa? Lisa, thank you as always.
You're welcome. I think I can answer. I wasn't sure what your question was going to be, but what they typically do with those reval notices is they do compare the current assessed value, which is not the market value, but it's 70%, And they give the taxpayer sort of an idea that this is where you were as of 2018 ground list. This is where you're going to be as of 2023 ground list, but they caution them not to try to calculate their taxes based on that new assessed value, because you can't, because we don't know what the mill rates are going to be for that tax bill in July of 2024. And that's the difficult part, because the tendency on the part of the taxpayer is to right away get to their calculator and try to apply a mill rate that we don't anticipate that being what the mill rate will be. So it's a public education thing. But they do usually, I'd be surprised if they didn't include the prior assessment, but that's what the customers are looking for. But anyway, they'll be able to see it on their tax bill that they're probably going to get at the same time. So there's always that. Don't forget to pay your taxes before you buy all your holiday presents. So we've got to get those bills in the mail before the holidays.
But Lisa, the tax bill is based on the old assessment, not the new reval, correct?
Yes, it is. Because
So I'm saying you
yeah.
mentioned they get the bill and the reval, but the reval is for the June. So and it gets complicated. You have to look at tax levy, you have to look at district by district. So all it says is your assessed value had this amount of change over the 5-year period.
Yep. Right. But the bill that they're going to get from me in December is going to have their 2018 ground list assessment, because that's what we've used.
Right.
For 18, 19, right through now, the 2022 ground list that we're currently collecting on in January of 2024. It does get confusing, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you both. Anything else for Lisa? All right, Tom, where are we headed next?
See you next month. Thank you.
Happy holidays, Lisa.
Happy holidays to everybody. Much appreciated.
We are headed to Oak Hills and Allen Dutton before 7 o'clock. Don't get used to it.
Yeah, thank you for such small mercies. Good evening. I've got two parts to my report this evening. One, we'll talk about the October financials, and then we'll talk about the restaurant and what we're doing moving forward there, etc., etc. So, from a operational point of view, in the month of October, we're now 4 months into our fiscal year. The trend for October continues to be positive. Our revenue was over budget by $29,000, more golfers than we had anticipated. Our expenses were $5,000 over budget. But that means our income was basically $24,000 over budget for the month of October. It was quite a nice weather-wise for us again, so continue to do well in the month of October. On a year-to-date basis, we find ourselves with our revenue over about $80,000 compared to what we budgeted. We've managed to keep our expenses in line, even though the revenue's gone up, and we find ourselves with a year-to-date $80,000 over our budget in operating income. So the trend continues okay. We now, of course, go into November, December, January, February, and March, which are our slower months. We start to eat away into the cash that we've got put away for that, and also for our capital expenses. So I don't know if you have any questions on the month of October or year to date.
Questions for Alan on the numbers? Glad the weather's held out for you, Alan.
Yeah, thank you. Now let's talk about the restaurant situation. We have the dissolution agreement with Dry Dock Smoking Aces has been signed and agreed upon, and the last day for Dry Dock Smoking Aces will be January the 7th is when everything will cease. The restaurant actually closed to golfers at this moment in time, but he does have 5 or 6 parties coming up in the month of December, one last one on January the 7th. So that will be the last day of our agreement with him. We have come to an agreement on all the money that is owed to us in the way, and Don is current at this moment in time on his lease payments. He did make the last utility payment. So far we are up to date on all that, and it is an amicable agreement. He's signed, he's agreed, and we will have it will become ours again as of January the 7th. Moving forward, obviously we need to replace him. So I was asked by the chair of the Oak Hills, Joe, to form a search committee, which we've formed. And there are 3 members of the Oak Hills Authority, Robert Stowers, Director of Parks and Rec, myself, and another member of the committee. And then we've also reached out to a member of the Men's Golf Association, a member of the Women's Golf Association, also someone who helps us out a lot, Steve Shepard, and a senior member of the senior committee to form a committee so that we can interview some of the candidates. We've also been working closely with the city, helped us a lot to put together our RFP. The RFP has gone out. I don't know the exact dates that it is due back, but so far we have 5 candidates in the pipeline. 2 of the candidates basically currently operate restaurants in the municipal golf courses around the area here. And there are 3 candidates who operate restaurants as well. So we anticipate having about 3 meetings. We have a kickoff meeting next Friday to introduce all the members of the committee and to put down some of the parameters. That's on next Friday. And then we anticipate when the RFPs are in, which I believe they're due in about 10 days' time, we will meet. We'll probably meet with the candidates or whittle them down to 3. And then we'll have a final meeting to decide which we think is the best. And then we'll make the recommendation to the Oak Hills Park Authority. And I would like to have a vote taken at the 18th of January meeting, so we can move ahead. So this is what we are planning on doing. I think it's good that we reach out to not just the Oak Hills Park Authority, but people who actually use the course and involve the Men's and Women's Association and other players. So that's where we are.
Hey,
Alan, this is Troy. I just want to say that sounds great. I think what you've just said was you're doing a great job there in setting up for the RFP and setting up for the new vendor. Good luck with that. The other question by the way, in the survey that Jim, the GM, sent out was very helpful. And I understand that's going to be shared with the future vendor. So there should be no surprises
100%.
to the vendor.
Yep. That's the reason why we did it. I must admit, Jim did a very good job on that. He did. And Jim will, of course, be part of this committee as well. I forgot to include him, but he will be a member of the committee as well. I
look forward to that. And just real quick, are you still looking at the unlimited option for next year, for this coming up soon for next year? Unlimited golf option, yes.
I believe we're going to, when we do the budget, we'll keep it down to 50. But yes, it's good for us. It gives us some money up front. Not that we need the money, yes. But there are some people that really like it, and 50. You know, if we keep it to 50, I think that's fine. Yes.
Thank you, Alan. Great. Good luck.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Any other questions for Alan? All right. Thank you, Alan.
Welcome.
Tom, I believe that is the end of our agenda, but I figured I'd check with you to see if there's any other things before we move to close.
You're tired of me cutting you off as you're about to wrap up?
I finally learned my lesson.
Just no, real quickly, obviously, the first Monday in January is the new year. So we will not be meeting then. It'll be January 8th, the following Monday. So other than that, happy holidays to everyone. Enjoy your holiday season.
Great. Happy holidays all. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Or Artie, did you have a comment?
No, happy holidays.
All right. So Artie, move to adjourn. All approved. Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Have a wonderful holiday season. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but we'll see you in the new year.
Yeah, it's 7:06. What a record, I think.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.